Before you throw away a fishing rod because the epoxy around one guide has cracked, lifted, or failed, watch this first. This problem may look serious, but in many cases, the rod can still be repaired. Sometimes the guide itself is still usable, but the epoxy finish and thread wrap have become weak. Other times, the guide foot is rusty, the frame is bent, or the ring is damaged, and the best repair is to replace the guide completely. The epoxy around a fishing rod guide is not just for decoration. It protects the thread wrap, seals water out, and helps keep the guide foot firmly against the rod blank. When the epoxy fails, you may see cracks, white lines, peeling, soft spots, or gaps around the wrap. You may also notice that the guide moves slightly when you touch it. If the guide is no longer secure, the fishing line may not run correctly through the rod. This damage can happen for many reasons. The rod may be old, or it may have been exposed to sunlight, heat, salt water, moisture, or impact. Sometimes the original epoxy was mixed poorly, applied too thick, or applied too thin. Sometimes the thread wrap was not tight enough from the beginning. After long use, water and dirt can enter under the epoxy. If salt water gets inside, the guide foot can start to corrode under the wrap where you cannot see it easily. Do not keep fishing with a guide that has damaged epoxy. A loose guide can change the line angle and reduce casting distance. A rusty or rough guide foot can weaken the wrap. A cracked ring can scratch your fishing line. At first, the rod may still seem usable, but under pressure, the line can break or the guide can pull loose. Repairing it early is much safer than waiting until it fails while fighting a fish. For this repair, prepare a replacement guide in the correct size, wrapping thread, rod finish epoxy, a sharp blade, masking tape, fine sandpaper, a clean cloth, rubbing alcohol if available, and a small brush or stick for applying epoxy. Try to choose a guide that matches the original one as closely as possible. Check the ring size, frame height, and guide foot shape. If the new guide is too tall, too short, or too small, the line may not flow smoothly through the rod. First, inspect the damaged guide carefully. Look at the ceramic ring, the metal frame, the guide foot, the thread wrap, and the epoxy finish. If the ring is cracked, the frame is bent, or the foot is badly corroded, replace the whole guide. If the guide is still good but the epoxy has failed, you can still remove the old wrap and reinstall the guide. In this tutorial, we will remove the damaged epoxy and replace the guide with a clean new wrap. Start by removing the old epoxy and thread wrap. Use a sharp blade carefully. Cut on top of the metal guide foot, not directly into the rod blank. This is very important. If you cut into the blank, you can weaken the rod. Make small cuts and lift the old thread away slowly. If the epoxy is very hard, you can warm it slightly for a few seconds to soften it, but do not overheat the rod. Too much heat can damage the blank or the finish around it. After the old wrap is removed, lift the damaged guide away from the rod. Clean the area with a cloth. Remove old epoxy, loose thread, salt, dirt, and dust. If the blank surface feels rough, use fine sandpaper very lightly. Do not sand too deep. You only want to create a clean surface so the new guide can sit flat and the thread can wrap evenly. After sanding, wipe the area again and let it dry. Now, place the new guide on the rod. Use a small piece of masking tape to hold it in position. Look down the rod from the handle toward the tip and check the alignment. All guides should form one straight line. Take your time here. A strong repair is not enough if the guide is crooked. Poor alignment can make the line rub badly, reduce casting distance, and make the repair look unprofessional. When the guide is in the correct position, begin wrapping the guide foot with thread. Start a short distance before the guide foot. Hold the tag end of the thread along the blank and wrap over it to lock it down. Keep the thread tight, smooth, and close together. Do not leave gaps between the wraps. Move slowly toward the guide foot and continue wrapping until the foot is fully covered. If the guide has 2 feet, repeat the same process on the other side. To finish the wrap, use a small pull-through loop. Place a short loop of thread under the last few turns. Make several more wraps over the loop, then cut the working thread. Pass the thread end through the loop and pull it back under the wraps. Trim the extra thread carefully with a sharp blade. The finished wrap should look clean, tight, and even. Before applying epoxy, check the guide alignment again. This is your last easy chance to adjust it. Once the epoxy cures, fixing a crooked guide becomes much harder. When everything is straight, mix the rod finish epoxy according to the instructions. Mix slowly to avoid creating too many bubbles. Apply a thin, even coat of epoxy over the thread wrap. Let the epoxy soak into the thread and seal the edges. Rotate the rod slowly while applying the finish so the epoxy spreads evenly around the wrap. Do not use too much epoxy. A thick coat can sag, look messy, and add unnecessary weight. The epoxy should protect the thread, but it should not form a heavy lump. Now let the epoxy cure fully. If you have a rod dryer, let the rod rotate slowly while the finish levels. If you do not have one, turn the rod by hand every few minutes at the beginning to prevent sagging. Keep dust away from the wet epoxy. Do not touch the wrap while it is curing, and do not use the rod before the epoxy is completely dry. Common beginner mistakes include cutting into the blank, using the wrong guide size, leaving old salt or rust under the wrap, wrapping too loosely, forgetting alignment, applying too much epoxy, and fishing before the finish has fully cured. Work slowly. Keep everything clean and check each step before moving on. After the epoxy is fully cured, run your fishing line through all the guides and check the line path. The line should move smoothly with no sharp edges, rough spots, or bad angles. Gently flex the rod and make sure the new guide stays firm. With the correct replacement guide, clean preparation, tight wrapping, proper epoxy, and patience, your fishing rod can become strong, smooth, and ready for your next fishing trip again.